This week on my podcast, I'm so thrilled to have Don Davis here from the NFLPA. He's a former player. He played at the Patriots and he played at Tampa Bay. And we are going to talk about voluntary OTAs and just kind of what's going on with the union right now. Don, did you just want to introduce yourself real quick to
Yeah,
my listeners?
I'm happy to. Don Davis, former player, 11 years in the NFL, a couple Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. I was a journeyman, undrafted rookie free agent. So that'll play into our conversation when we talk about OTAs.
Yeah.
But I retired. I stayed with the Patriots coaching and then came on, did that a couple of years. You can only do that so long. I love coaching, but you can only coach for so long, particularly in a system like New England's. But then I came on with I came on with the NFLPA in 2010. Interesting year, right before the lockout, the lockout that happened in 2011. And I've been here now 11 years. And I serve as the Senior Director of Player Affairs and the Senior Advisor to the Executive Director, DeMorris.
Yeah. So last week, prior to right after the draft and before rookie minicamp, we all had a meeting and
Yes.
You all shared the player's position on voluntary OTAs. First of all, I think you need to explain to people the difference between voluntary and mandatory and what is voluntary and mandatory, because I think a lot of people don't even understand that.
Yeah. I think for football players and particularly professional football players, the word voluntary is not a word. It's not in the lexicon. It's literally you're voluntold, right? You're voluntary / mandatory, right? You just show up early and stay late. That is the mentality of an NFL player, of a football player, of an athlete, but particularly for a professional athlete. And why that's important, because professional NFL players are the only professional sports association that has an off season. It's very important. Every other sport starts with a camp or some sort of opening, finishes with whenever their season is done, and does not come back until it's time for that season to start again. So that's very important. That's where this voluntary piece comes in. Historically, before 2010, before the new CBA was signed in 2011, that offseason was about 12 weeks. Before that, when I was in the NFL from 95 to 2007, my last season was 2006 season, it was about 16 weeks. So go back before that, there was no offseason. Back before the 1993 Reggie White settlement that ultimately led to free agency, players had a 6-week training camp that they started, and they came there and got in shape and then finished the season and then went to get a job someplace else. So again, I know we kind of went back a little bit, but that's how this thing has historically evolved. The idea was free agency came, guys are getting paid all this money. They don't need to go work anyplace else. They need to be right here, right at the facility. Most guys, they're fine with that.
Yeah.
Many of them were getting paid a good wage. They didn't need to get a second job. So then the herd mentality starts. You just simply do it because everybody else does it. That's how voluntary off-season OTAs, which with the 2011, starting in the 2011 CBA, was 9 weeks, okay? Whittled down to 9 weeks. The NFL has always wanted that mandatory. The players have felt like that's a voluntary, and particularly with DeMorris Smith, who came in and was like this whole, no, education is important and players need to, 1, rest, 2, use that time to build other skills, go to school and what have you.
Yeah.
This semester, because that was something that was part of D. Smith's speech. It was one part of what got him elected, right? So it was part of his goal. That, along with that executive committee back then, who Mike Vrabel was a part of that executive committee, even though he may forget. No, he doesn't forget that. But even though he's on the other side coaching, he was part of that to negotiate.
Coaches are a whole.
Coaches
want to coach players all day long. Are you kidding? And
day.
then they want to talk to them and watch film with them. Are you kidding?
All day. So we'll carve him out. But back then in 2009, when D was elected, going through to the lockout in 2011, and then negotiating the CBA, the new CBA by which we are kind of under, because that CBA, as you know, came to an end, or would have come to an end at the end of the 2020 season. We signed a new CBA that goes for 11 years.
Thank goodness that got signed when it did.
I tell you, there was, sometimes they say you'd rather be lucky than good, right? So their timing in that, and we see that with some other sports that have that completely, COVID completely changed the dynamics when it came to sports and even business in general. So that's where voluntary came from. It's always been a right that players have negotiated for, but players have always just simply showed up because that's what you're expected to do. And one could argue that it might be the best place for you. If you're in Green Bay and you live in Green Bay, the Green Bay Packers facility is probably the best one there is. You live in Florida or Texas or California, I don't know, right? We'd have to look at whatever metrics we put to decide on whether you can go someplace else, and it might be equally as good, at least, if not better, than the facility that you're at. So that's just a side, right? So 9 weeks, it's completely voluntary. It says it. Everything that's sent out says it's voluntary, and yet coaches and GMs continue to message or insinuate that it is not voluntary. But thankfully, because our CBA has protections in it, should someone suggest that it's not voluntary, there is punitive measures you've seen that. Okay. There are punitive measures.
But they get fined or whatever.
That is correct. They can be fined. They can lose a week's of training for violation. That is a CBA violation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We have had to pull that card. We've had to have some coaches or general managers take back what they said or what they've sent out and send out something that says, my apologies, what I meant was, you're certainly welcome to come here, blah, 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 as opposed to it starts here, you're expected to be here, blah, 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 blah. We've had those letters. We get those and we have them redacted. So that just gives you an overview of like voluntary versus mandatory, but it is a completely voluntary program.
So now last week, before mini camps, or a couple weeks before mini camps started, you all talked to all the new rookies. Mm-hmm. And I think it was the first time I had heard that people were suggesting that they not go to rookie minicamp because it was voluntary.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did that happen? Why did you come to the conclusion? And really the message I got was you were just telling players, you have a choice and each individual can make that choice, but you should probably talk to the other players to see what everybody's doing, right?
That's correct.
I thought was a good message. I don't know that was clearly cleared up. It's called the right to choose. You get to choose. The player gets to choose, not me, the agent. I don't get to choose. My player gets to decide what he wants to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so I think what happens is we really have 4 different parties that are all contributing to this, okay? We have the players that are veterans that have been in the locker room. Anyone who's been in the locker room 2020 and before, I put in a veteran category, right? Mm-hmm. They all were informed. They all had many calls. They all were making decisions that was in the best interest of themselves. And that was the message. Hey, by the way, this is voluntary. COVID is still an issue. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, we have some injury data that would suggest you might want to take a look at. Oh, and also you just finished the season without an offseason going into the building. Maybe you should use your right that you negotiated and not show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the message. Players made some decisions. They had a bunch of team calls. Players decided either as a team, the majority, it wasn't unanimous with every team, right?
Never is.
It wasn't unanimous on those members of those teams. We have a diverse membership. We hardly get 100% of anything unless we say, you don't have to go in and you're getting paid. Well, I'll get 100% on that. I mean, who wants less? Everybody would sign up for less work and more pay, right? But outside of that, the simple message was, it's voluntary. You should know, and you should make the best decision for you and your family. There were many players who were like, for the first time, I might add, 70% of them said, I'm not going into phase one and refuse to go in. 70%. See, media doesn't tell you that. It's a lot of players.
Yes.
Right. Now, there were 2 or 3 teams that they highlight on the media, PFT and the like. Oh, man, majority of the players are there. Yeah, there were a couple teams where they had about 80% of the players. But then there were other teams where they had less than 1%. So again, when you did take the total, 70% of the guys decided not to go to phase one. Fantastic. That was their decision. It's their right. Now, the 30% that went in, good for you. You did it because whatever reason, you didn't have to explain that reason to us, certainly, or anyone else. So you have your veteran players. You have the PA they're saying to be bifurcated as, well, the players wanted this and the PA wants this. Untrue. The PA wants what the players want, right? Yeah. So there was a majority of players that wanted to not go in. Great. They exercised that right. Great. We represent those players. There was a group of players who decided to go in for whatever reason. Great. We represent those players, right? So then the third entity would be the rookies. Now you're coming in, rookies, you're hearing all of this. You don't know anybody. You don't know you're just like, wait, what? Who's saying this, that, and third? So here's the idea. Why don't we get the rookies and the agents, the fourth group? Why don't we get these guys on a call? Let's just talk through this, because there's a lot of stuff. If you're just reading the media, you got this, that there's some NFLPA, we're drumming up the beat, guys aren't coming, we don't want you to go, and that's our stance. Stop it. So let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, so we have this, man, look, rookies, agents, look, your players, they have the option. Nobody's telling the rookie not to go in. Are you telling my rookie not? No, right? I'm not telling him that. But if he is going to, he does have an option, right? Because it is completely voluntary. And I'm guaranteeing you, his coach, his general manager, nor his agent told him that. Okay, it's just they did. No agent said. Yeah. And I get it, right? But here's a very big one, and this kind of gets lost in translation because the relationship between the agent community and the PA sometimes gets dicey and it gets icy, and we get all of that. But we have to recognize, or at least acknowledge, that this word fiduciary duty can sometimes get locked up or hide behind the guise of, well, I have a personal vested interest in him going. If we have to at least start there, right? So every agent has a financial implication by the rookies going or not going. We got to start with that, right? And I get it. So forget about fiduciary duty. You're going to get the best opportunity to make the team.
Yeah.
That's a reality of what it is. Okay. So we get on a call, things get, lost in translation. And then it looks as if the NFLPA is trying to tell its players, and particularly rookies, not to go to camp. That's just simply not true.
Yeah.
Now, would I love a world where an entire group of rookies not show up and an entire group of players not show up? Heck yeah. Why? Because I work for them.
Yes.
And I want them to know voluntary means voluntary. And if you stay together and you all don't go in, well, then guess what? Your voice, now everybody knows it's voluntary. And maybe that resets some of the hard wiring that is in our coaches and GMs to realize, oh, wow, this thing really is voluntary. I can't just wave a magic wand and make players come in. So, look,
Yeah.
70%, great. We'll see. We're going to keep beating this drum because it's voluntary.
Yeah.
And until it's otherwise, until it's either mandatory or until something else is negotiated that the players want to do, maybe they want to negotiate a smaller one. I don't know. Maybe they just want to get rid of it altogether. That may be a reality too. We all have to get comfortable with everything is changing. Not everything, that's a big statement. Things are changing. And I think the biggest thing that is changing is people realizing what their rights are and exercising those rights. Knowing your right is one thing. Yes, voluntary. Exercising your right. Whoa, wait a minute. All of a sudden now you exercise a right and you're looked at in some negative light, like you're trying to hurt someone's career. So that was enough talking on that.
Well, it's interesting because here is what a coach is going to say.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to take this rookie player and teach him? Let's take a kicker, punter, or snapper. That's a rookie.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll make a change to a player who's at a very technical position. And I use kickers, punters, and snappers because my husband's a special teams coach and I represent a lot of specialists. And I also know a lot of special teams coaches that say, Jill, I got to make this change with him, but he's going to get worse before he gets better. And I don't want him to get cut. So I want to be able to blah, 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 blah. Now, there are certain times during voluntary OTAs, you're not allowed to touch the ball anyway. But you understand that's the way coaches think. Well, we're moving him to center. He plays right tackle. We got to teach him that position. We're moving him from, we think he's a DN in college, but we're going to move him to linebacker because of his body type. Or, he played safety in college, or he played corner in college, but we're moving him to safety. The speak.
Absolutely.
Right? So what's your response to that? Because that's the stuff that I hear.
Mm-hmm. So twofold, I think. Number one is, while that is a reality, we have data that shows coaches can adapt and coach without an off season. So let's start there.
Okay.
We did it. Now, I don't know how many change positions and that. I don't have data around that. I could certainly probably pull it. But I think the bigger question is, without 9 weeks of off season, can you coach get a player better? I think that's probably would be the question, right? Mm-hmm. And the answer to that might be that I can get him better, but I would certainly be willing to get him better. I can guarantee having more time with him only increases the likelihood that I get him back, right?
Right.
And yet, that's fine in football world, but if I take that same example and I put it to something else like a health and safety, and I say, 9 weeks with pads on, would that help players tackle better? Maybe, I don't know,
maybe not. I don't know.
But again, so when we get caught up, I think, and we have some great coaches. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have great coaches.
I mean, listen.
But there's a lot of overconfidence in what their abilities are, right? And again, I was with the GOAT, Bill Belichick. I'm nothing against it, but let's ease up on the man, I, with 9 weeks, can get a player better. Slow down just a second. I mean, maybe you can.
The team with the best player wins. That's what I always say.
At the end of the day,
at
the end of the day, 60 minutes of football is played, 4 quarters, and the best team the team that scores the most points wins the game.
Right.
Whether they do it with sloppy football or not, whether they have penalties, again, I know that upsets my football purist, but maybe I've been out of the game too long and I look at it just too practical. Come on. If we don't have 9 weeks. But to your point, it is a valid point, right?
Yes. Okay.
My only point is then it's voluntary. So stop losing your mind, coaches, and having players go full speed drills, linemen getting hit in the shoulder with helmets in the offseason. Why are we subjecting players to a level of intensity and duration at this point in the off season, all under the guise of we're going to get them better? We're going to make our team tougher. Stop it. So I'll push back on that. Okay. I think everybody will, let's put it this way, that overconfidence of I can do it in 4 weeks, 9 weeks, however, should be the same confidence that would be like, even if I don't have 9, I still can do it. I'd like to see that. Let's try that for a minute and let's just see. So anyway.
Coaches, I mean, they like to control things just slightly. And
we all hate change, right? So I'm not trying to bash.
Yeah, I know. I'm laughing because I represent coaches. I'm married to a coach. My dad's a coach, so I live with this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, my whole life. And then I represent players, so it's just funny. So I'm laughing, and I just made the statement to my husband the other day, and he's like, "Why would you say that?" I said, "Because it's true."
Yes. I mean, listen, and I get it. We lost 07. We lost the Super Bowl. That was our 17 and our 18-1 season. We won all those games.
Was that the game against the Giants?
It was in Arizona.
Steve Spock, a client of mine, was on the team.
So I was a coach at that point, and there was a lot said or done. Bill didn't have his sweatshirt right. They didn't, so he had a new one. And we lost. Oh my God. And he burned it and all that, whatever. He never wore it again. And there's all this stuff. I get it. However, I can tell you why we lost. And if a damn sure wasn't because Bill had wrong colored jersey.
I was at that game, Don. It was at Arizona Stadium.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
My client was playing on the Patriots, and he found out like 2 minutes before the game that he wasn't going to get to play. They put him on inactive because he was a tight end, and he probably maybe he didn't match up well against whoever he was going. I don't know why he didn't.
Yes, but there was a sack, a missed fumble recovery, and a missed interception, and then a giving up an inside on a man coverage. The 4 reasons why we lost. Those are the period. You can look at the film, pull it up. That's why we lost, not because somebody did or didn't wear this or didn't do or had a damn off season. The damn offseason had nothing to do with losing the damn Super Bowl. Anyway.
It's so funny. Okay, so here's the other hot button.
Okay.
And I've been asked this question a lot. Can you mandate that players get vaccinated?
There is a law that says that private entities can, in certain instances, mandate vaccinations or a procedure, that would affect public health of the workers, right? So, could it be mandated legally? Probably.
Yeah, and the exceptions are religious and health reasons.
Correct.
You can't. Now, the other little caveat is that the vaccinations are not FDA approved, so everybody probably could use that excuse. Yeah. I mean, I'm not advertising that. I'm vaccinated, but I want to travel and I don't want to worry about it, right? But again, that's my choice. Yeah. So my question was, well, why isn't everybody vaccinated? The owner of the Jets is Mr. Johnson, who has a vaccination. So why wouldn't he be giving everybody the vaccination?
Yeah. Well, I think first, just so we clear information, the NFL, and I rarely will give them kudos, they have done a good job at trying to educate, right? But it's really clear we're educating and not advocating.
Okay.
And I think we have to draw that line very clearly as people in power, because you did not mandate the vaccine, right? It is a player's choice. Okay. Yeah. But with that, again, giving them a little love, the NFL had decided to allow their facilities for vaccination distribution. So they made it easy for the players and their families and the community. And so in some communities, right? So that's all good stuff. I think from a player's standpoint, number one, it's not mandated. So it is their choice. Again, here we go with choices. It's a right?
The right to choose.
It's exactly. Some of them, I have players who believe that it is not a vaccination because it's not FDA approved. They believe it's an experiment. And so they're like, I want to see more data. Right.
Right. Yeah.
A player, again, whether you want to agree to it or believe into it or not, a player also can feel like, wait a minute, in the height of COVID, we got through 17 games, 16 games. Why? And there was no vaccination. So why would I take one now?
Oh, gosh. Okay.
We just got through. I didn't take one vaccination. I didn't take one vaccine. Why am I all of a sudden now need to do it to get through a season when I didn't in the height of COVID and there was no vaccine? So again, no matter how that's how they think, that could be how some of them have done. Now, others will decide to get it, right? And it'll be that. And there'll be some relaxation of protocols consistent with CDC guidelines, right, and consistent with what some other sports leagues have done, hockey and basketball in particular, relaxing the protocols, mask wearing, social distancing, contact tracers, and etc. So those are all things that could help inform a player. But at the end of the day, like every American, you have the decision to choose. Right. There are some, I have friends, I am fully vaccinated because I could never ask the players to do something that I wasn't willing to do, even though we weren't all in my house, in the Davis household. We had some questions. Oh, okay. And I had a few of the Davis household who was like, I ain't doing it. I don't work for the players. That's what some in the Davis household said. But we all circled up and we just decided that we made the best decision for us, that, to your point, there's some strong data that would suggest that I am more protected. Us, by being vaccinated, are more protected. Yeah. Okay, we made that choice, right? But a player has a right to make that choice. And so we may not get to. Look, the whole country is not gonna get to 80%.
Oh, no, let me tell you.
So why are we expecting NFL players or trying to bash NFL players for doing something that every red-blooded American is not doing? So let's slow down on all of the vaccine like we need to be or that. So that's just information.
So what's going to happen? Because let's say you're on a team and 99% of the personnel, the staff are vaccinated and 99% of the players are vaccinated. And then you got the one person who isn't vaccinated.
Yeah.
What are we going to do when? Are we going to separate that person? Yeah. I mean, it's like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Because I keep thinking to myself, now this is going on at colleges too.
Yes.
Because a lot of my college coaches have asked me, my university is mandating, and my players that don't get vaccinated will not be allowed to go to class.
Yes.
Okay, they won't put them in the same room.
Right.
And because, it's a liability issue, really.
Yes. Well, it is and it isn't. So let me say this, Joe. Target, and I shop a lot in Target.
Yeah.
They have relaxed their protocols, and vaccinated individuals are allowed to be in their store without any mask, right? There's only one problem with that.
Not in California.
Okay.
Because I was in
Here in
Target and
Virginia?
Costco yesterday, and and I asked them specifically,
Yep.
they said, well, the California state law has not changed yet. Therefore, we are all still wearing masks. I said, okay, I was just checking because I've been vaccinated. I got my little vaccination card in my purse if you want to see it.
So here, but to that point, so in Virginia and in other states, many other states, that is not the case.
Okay.
So then the question is, I get the relaxed protocols. I'm in a restaurant, wide open, right? Okay, so everybody, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear. Okay, how do you know? The answer is you don't. Because you can't ask anybody to show them your card or produce it. But so they haven't even figured out, companies, businesses, the US government haven't even figured out, well, how do you figure out who is and who isn't, and what happens with those who aren't? They can't answer that. So you best believe the NFL is not going to answer that, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I'd say to that, though. But again, maybe I'm too practical. Should it be that you're that scenario that you mentioned and you're at 90%? It shouldn't matter based on the data that comes out, because it would say there's a high number of them would have a high percentage of not contracting the virus again, or even if they do, not shedding viral load. Okay, so I guess we're just going to have to, like everything that's novel and emerging, and as it keeps going, we learn more and we adapt, which is what we did in 2020 during the season.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything else you want to share with anybody?
I think they probably sick of hearing me talking. I appreciate the opportunity and the time to discuss these issues and to try to clear up some confusion. And hopefully it was helpful.
Okay, and I got one more idea for you. See, I changed my fee structure for players, and I say I cap it. It's 3% capped at 20,000. They will never pay more than that, because that's about how much time it takes me. And I think, and if they get away from that training stuff and not putting all this money out, then everybody wouldn't be going out of business. See, you want to know why I haven't gone out of business? Because I don't pay for that shit. Excuse my language, but I don't.
Yes.
Because it's not necessary.
Well,
they can work out at their training facility. Proven this year where we didn't have a combine, and people still got drafted.
Listen, that's a whole other issue that you could have me on another time that we could talk to, that I'd like to speak directly to agents, because it would seem to me that the best place for a player is at his free facility, his college, and finishing his degree.
Or instead of, I've had 3 players get masters in the spring.
Right. Like, this whole thing has gotten out of hand. And I feel bad because our rookies, our prospective players are being somewhat thrown to the wolves.
Yes.
And they're used to in this hamster wheel of, I got to leave school, I got to go here, I got to train and get ready for the stupid combine, which there's a whole other madness to that. And that's a completely different type of training. And then we talk about health and safety. You've been training for a combine for shuttles and that's not football activity. And we wined and dined you because you flew around for 2 months to this place and that place. And we're going to throw you in a full speed mini camp. How stupid is that?
It is the stupidest thing ever, because and then I always say, you're basically training for track events, but you don't run track.
That's right.
Especially the linemen. I've talked to Dee about this. We have to solve this issue.
Yeah.
It is now I just refuse to do it, because I just say, look, let me tell you what it's going to cost you to pay an agent. I want you to write the check out. Do you like that check? Do you? Because they hate paying their agent.
Right.
Right. They whine, right? I said, okay, so, and I start the meeting with that. I said, here is what it costs to pay 3% if you're this draft pick and get this much money. Now, really, why are you paying that much money to somebody? That's ridiculous.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Especially
if you're renegotiating a deal.
Right. That's good. I mean, that's great advice, and I'm glad.
But I'm not going to pay for your training and all this BS and your food when you can get it free at your damn school.
Yeah.
Where the facilities are better, where the trainer, you got doctors, you got trainers, you got weight coach, you got coaches, you can watch NFL film in the facility.
Yes.
I
Totally. You and I agree on that.
No, I know. I'm just like so tired of it. But I've been preaching this for a while. Nobody's listening.
And again, human behavior, inertia, we just do what we've always done. And until something changes or somebody decides to say no, then, the classic example, draft. Oh my God, if you were the top 10, you had to go. Really? Well, the last couple of years, they haven't. So now there's a little something there. Now players like, yeah, why am I going to do that? Right? Again, it's your choice. We keep coming back to that. And that's at the end of the day, one of our duties is to inform players of their choice. And it's not popular, which is why it gets crossed with some agents or some coaches, but it's their choice. And if we can just say that, then it is what it is, right? Not that we're trying to hurt somebody's career. You're trying to hurt somebody's career by telling them no. It's a choice, and it's simply their choice. As an undrafted rookie free agent, I would have always went absolutely.
Yeah.
But if everybody else wouldn't have went, I would have stuck with my brothers.
Right. And my client that I had this year, now of course he's going to med school, but he was like, yeah, no, if they're not going to go, I'm not going to go. I mean, he was like total, but he's a really very, very intelligent guy. I mean, he had a 3.99 in college, pre-med, and already admitted to med school. Do you know what I'm saying? And played football and worked at the Psychiatric Children's Hospital also. So he played football and got a 3.99 and got into med school. So you know what I mean? He's pretty brilliant guy.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he's choosing not to play. Probably smart.
Good for him. Good for him.
I know. Okay. Well, thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for this. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah. And if you need anything from me, let me know. Okay.
Thanks, Jill.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.